I drafted something for learning.
Okay, we're pretty on
Yeah, I was just like that. Although we did have I know, but it is exciting. Yeah. The CPI, yes. Oh, yeah.
Senior.
Okay. 3 minutes.
So, about half the class, which is how we did last year. Hopefully, I just sent out another reminder for today. Hopefully, we'll get that right. And it's fun because they bring
Are you like, oh, those are on the mic.
I'll be there next year.
Fantastic, Charlie. So yes, there's lots.
That's gonna feel so good to get you that long.
We're shipping that well. I'm glad I'm there.
All right, should we get started? The live stream audience is expecting us at 6:15. So there's a lot of good conversation happening.
Absolutely.
Sure.
Check, check.
Yeah.
All right, hello and welcome, and thank you to this very friendly audience. Thank you so much for sharing your evening with us, and hello to the audience at home. Thank you for joining us through the live stream. I'm really excited to share some updates with you today about what's been going on at Drew. I think it's really great practice for schools to actually have these community forums, but especially important for me as a first-year head to build this rapport and communication with you and to report out what I and the whole team and community have been working on. And so just a little preview of what tonight will include. That was my slight welcome. It's really nice to be with you. I'm so glad that you're here. Thank you. All right, some program highlights for the evening. I want to, again, share a little bit of what's been going on. You're going to hear from a number of different leaders and constituent groups at the school. You're going to hear from our seniors. You're going to hear from our parents. You're going to hear from some administrators. And you're going to hear from both me and the chair of our Board of Trustees, Maija Muncy, who's here tonight. And we're going to talk a little bit about especially, in this first year, having the opportunity to go through an accreditation self-study process. It's a wonderful opportunity to look back and reflect upon what we've been doing for the last 7 years and in more recent years, and also to look ahead. And so 7 years is a long, span of time to cover. As you can imagine, even the last 7 days, a lot has been happening at Drew. I'm going to try to make it fresh as well as reflective. And all of these groups are going to spend a little bit of time really looking back and looking ahead. So it is convention for heads of school to always start with the mission. And that is particularly true of Drew, because the mission is our guiding star. And the mission is really, really steeped in our work. And our community is mission aligned. When we did our climate surveys, we know that over 93% of every single constituent group feels mission aligned here at Drew. And I think that's a really important factor. And so what I wanted to do is just remind us that Drew knows and believes in teenagers. We engage each student in the process of intellectual discovery to develop an individual voice, the confidence to express it, and the empathy to understand its impact. This is a really powerful and differentiating mission statement, and and I think it's lived and breathed on the daily here at Drew. And so I'm excited for each part of this presentation to really show you how this mission is manifesting, right? In the student life, in our academic program, in our operations and school initiatives at large. And so to my point about just even in the last 7 days, how much has been going on, I want to shout out the 415 and thank everybody who attended, and especially thank the student leaders who helped to organize this. This is an entirely student-led event, and it is a wonderful illustration of our mission in action, because students are empowered and equipped, honestly, to do all of the organizing. They basically plan it, they perform in it, and they completely transform the campus from just a beautiful school into a flower festival. And we had 4 floors of food and incredible entertainment. And what I especially love about this illustration of the mission in action is that, yes, there were definitely student leads and student organizers, but when they called everybody to the stage to say, come up on stage and take some credit if you had a hand in organizing or shaping this, the stage was overflowing. They couldn't even stand on the stage because of the participation. So it was a beautiful night. And I also wanted to not only shout out our Instagram, which is really great, a lot of really good content happening there, but also say that this week is an important week for Drew because we have admitted a number of students and invited them to join our community. Yes! And we're really excited, and so we have spent the last few days welcoming students, prospective students and families to campus and helping them revisit and really get a taste of Drew with the fresh perspective that comes when you are admitted, and you can really look with enthusiasm at what you can imagine for yourself here at the school. So that's exciting. Our college admissions this week have also been highly impressive, and so flash forward 4 years, and our seniors, those who applied to 4-year colleges this year, 100% of them have been admitted, and over a third of the class by March already have been enrolled in their top choice school. So that's really exciting. The week's not even over yet. And then I see some robotics people. We had 18 students who participated in the San Francisco regional competition, and they killed it. And they just did super well. They're one of the top teams, and I'm not going to belabor that because you're going to see a little bit of the talent in action when I invite the seniors to come to the stage and talk about their work. And lastly, from a program standpoint, I'm really excited to say that we have hired our first choice candidate for our Dean of Equity and Social Impact. And so I'm really looking forward to Jacob Rivers, here shown on our Instagram, joining us this summer. And he comes to us from many different school experiences, but most recently at the Stevenson School down in Monterey. And he was like super well received here. He's highly accomplished, but I think the best testimony came from the students themselves who interviewed him. And they pulled me aside and they said, "Saya, he's fire." So, can't get higher praise than that, and we're really excited about his joining the community. Okay, and then in terms of broader community engagement, a real shout out to everybody in the parent community and the extended community for contribution and engagement in the building of community at Drew. I have some really exciting news to share about a culture of philanthropy and giving that we've been cultivating here. People care about this community. They want to see us thrive, and we have surpassed our annual fund goal. We are pushing $1 million for the first time. Yeah, and even more impressive than that is that we have record rates of family participation. So I'll talk a little bit more about how this reflects our climate and culture as well. But this is really incredible, and it helps to support our innovative programs, and it helps really to support access to this school, to make sure that everybody that we admit is able to attend and have this incredible experience. So Those are a few highlights that are just within the 7 past days. And I wanted to just talk about something that was really central to the work 7 years ago that my predecessor, David Frankenberg, started. And big credit goes to David because much of where we are today really stems from his leadership and his initiatives. And one of the big programmatic pieces that he put together in his tenure was not just the mission, but actually these learning outcomes that he wanted us to center through the educational experience, making sure that the students that go through our program are intellectually engaged, that they have global perspective, that they're creative and critical thinkers, that they have integrity, that they're good communicators, and that they also achieve with balance and well-being in mind as well. And I can't think of a better showcase of these outcomes than to invite 6 spectacular seniors up to join me with the also the coaching of our senior administrator and senior projects lead, also our director of experiential education, Kim McKay.
Okay, I'm thrilled to be here tonight to bring these 6 incredible seniors to the stage, and you can hear their stories. I'll give a really brief intro. As Saya was saying, this is an opportunity to look back and look forward, and that feels very true to me here. If I look back, these seniors started the same time I did. So I feel like we've really been on a journey over the past 4 years, and I've seen their growth from 9th graders. Miles was my advisee in 9th grade, as was Vanessa. So I love looking back, and I love senior projects because it comes at this moment where they're all looking forward to what they're going to do next and what they're going to study and what impact they're going to make on careers and communities and relationships moving forward. And Senior Projects is a platform for just that. So just to introduce what Senior Projects is, at Drew, we culminate the senior year with a truly student-designed project. So that mission of individual voice and impact is brought out in these. We have not told these 6 seniors what to do. These are their ideas coming from them. It's very high autonomy. It's all relevant and connected to who they are as individuals right now and what communities they are a part of. And they're all impactful, whether the impact is really, really personal or it's on the Drew community or even a bigger, broader community. They all think about the purpose of the work that they're doing. And we ask 3 core questions of them. The first being, what are you passionate about? The second, what would you create if you had more time and support? Because we're going to give them that. And then how can they use their skills to make a lasting impact? We have 3 tracks that these projects fall into, and you'll hear about all of these tracks in their stories. We have 2 creative capstones here tonight. Those are chances for them to take on a big creative idea that they have. And that creative idea can span from anything from visual art to performing art, and we even have an engineering and design example here tonight. And we showcase those in a gallery at Senior Symposium, which is an event you all can come to at the end of the year to see their work. Community impact are solution-oriented projects that address a real-world challenge or need. And you'll hear from Cece and Vanessa about a challenge in the Drew community that they identified and their creative solution to make a long-lasting impact on our community. And then this year we brought in internships, which was really exciting. So this is allowing students to learn from hands-on real-world experience and, very importantly, mentorship. So finding people not just willing to welcome a teenager into a workplace, but also actively mentor them and really give them a positive experience of that career field. We have categories of internships that are aligned with big goals we have in our academic program. So we have a Climate Academy intern this year. You will hear from our Voice in Action intern category from Madeline a little bit. And we also have STEM internships. So now we've all been waiting for, I will turn this over to our students to talk a little bit about what brought them to their project. We're in the moment where these projects have just been approved to move forward. So you'll hear them talk about their roadmap of how they got to where they are, where their inspiration and purpose comes from. and their big ambitious plans of what they're going to complete by symposium on May 21st.
Hello, my name is Kira. As a student Drew, I think I've had the opportunity to take some amazing classes. Drew has great teachers, and throughout my 4 years, I think I've been encouraged to find an authentic and individual voice, particularly in my visual arts and humanities classes. I think I found that authentic voice goes hand in hand with vulnerability. So I think that Drew has supported me through the often fearful uncertainty of expressing a view, belief, or experience that is one's own. And I think that support has led me to my senior project, which is this short quilt entitled Things I'm Afraid That You Will Find Out About Me, whose contents will be curated from anonymous community submissions. The piece is definitely a reflection on shame, but I think more specifically, shame, its capacity to foster connections, and the fragile, unspoken promises present in these connections. I think that there's something so desperate about our need to make intimate admissions. Divulging of shame is our way of attempting to connect. There's an artist, Andre Butner, who I think connects this experience with creating in a way that rings particularly true. She says that all art is close to shame. So I think in my work or in my mind, art is an attempt at, by way of shame, achieving some deeply necessary embrace. Yet sharing art and sharing shame is so fearful and so precarious and constantly teeters us into, oh no, I've said too much, which I think brings me to the second artist whose work is informing this piece. When Miranda July begins her performance piece, New Society, she pretends that she's forgotten all of her lines because she says the act bonds her audience. They become the people who witness this huge mistake, saw July struggling to remember what comes next, saw her undone. And I think we're really confronted with the fact that by performing, July is taking a risk. So when we share art and when we share shame, I think we take a similar risk and make this fragile promise with our audience. It says, I hope you will reach one another after I see this, but I'm not sure. So I'm hoping that this quilt will really visually reflect the imperfection that I believe is present in the connections that we form over shame. I'm hoping that it'll serve as a reminder to the community that sharing shame and discovering the fragility and desperation that lie there is something we can turn to in times of disconnection. And I'm so excited by the variety and humor that the Drew community that will bring to this project. I get to begin collecting admissions, but I'm sure that the quilt will really belong to the school, and I hope that I'll stay here after my graduation.
Hello, my name is Vanessa. My name is Cece, and our senior project is about code switching. What is code switching? It's the practice of alternating between, it could be varieties of conversation, the way you dress, the way you do your hair, the way you express yourself in your culture. So we want to do a series of workshops specifically with faculty and staff surrounding code switching, because as students of color at a predominantly white school, it's something that we feel the need to do sometimes. And we want to kind of address the historical background and repercussions of code switching, so it's not something so casual and we think more critically about why we do it.
This workshop would give an opportunity to teachers and staff at Drew to kind of learn more about the students and future students that might come in here, specifically people of color and their students, so that teachers can better support them, and that way that students feel more comfortable of them knowing that the teachers understand them on a more personal level. And this kind of senior project kind of came up for both of us because for the past 4 years at Drew, we've been a part of Latinos Unidos, which is an affinity group here at Drew where we hold a safe space for people, Latinos and Hispanics. And we also been part of Shanti Alliance. I've been a part of Shanti Alliance for 2 years. And Cece has been a part of Shanti Alliance for 3 years. And last year we presented our workshop in Hawaii, where we talked about code switching, and we just wanted to bring that very special workshop we worked on here at Drew.
Yeah, we're hoping that not only does it shed a light on why we really need to code switch and kind of hopefully show us how we can express ourselves and our culture authentically, we want this community in Drew to just be somewhere that people can fully express themselves and don't feel the need to like leave any parts of their identity behind. So yeah, that's our goal. And Drew is a very safe space, sorry, for everyone here. I feel like Drew does a really good job of helping anyone to really be authentic, but we just want to help Drew give that extra support or extra space so that everyone can feel authentic and themselves and feel safe to show themselves their language or their culture and just be supported and spread awareness like Cece was saying. And from this senior project we just hope to learn more about leadership, more about representation skills, more about using our voice and really speaking out about any problems we see and then actively face them. And yeah, we just want to give a better future to future Drew students and hope they really embrace their culture here at Drew.
What's up, guys? My name is Miles,
I'm Nate.
and our senior creative capstone project is to build a combat robot to compete against others, similar to the TV show BattleBots.
Yeah, so 4 years ago, when we were in our freshman year, we both started the robotics team here at Drew. And that's been a massive part of our experience here. And it's something that Drew's really helped support us with and really helped us build this program, and it now includes so many more people and will continue on. But we want to wrap up our experience by doing something a little bit new while still in the world of robotics.
So the goal is to obviously build a robot, but some skills, we'll be using the problem solving, design, and software development skills we've learned along the way. But we'll also be working with a new type of electronic control system and just completely new system in general, which will really challenge us to read documentation and stuff like that.
Yeah, over the past 4 years, I've really built out my software skills. Miles has really built out her CAD and computer-aided design, and just overall robotics design skills. And so we're really hoping that going to this new area will challenge us in a new area, which is electronics. It's something that is heavily regulated in the competition that we've been in. You don't have very much say over who uses what electronics because everybody has to be able to communicate with each other. As opposed to this competition, which is more grassroots. It's a single set of rules and people set up their own fields and their own small events. And if your robot moves, then it follows a few other rules, it's probably legal. So yeah, this will be a new kind of experience in the same engineering realm, but a lot of new skills to learn.
I guess that's it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Madeline, and I actually transferred to Drew my sophomore year of high school. And up until going to Drew, I had literally zero interest in the law. It wasn't even on my radar. I was really interested in history. I still am, but I wasn't even thinking about law. And then I took a history class junior year with one of teachers at Drew who also teaches law now, but used to be a lawyer. And he was really trying to start a mock trial team at Drew. And so he told me later on that he had a lot of debates in his class to sort of see who was good at arguing and that kind of thing and scat out. And he invited me to join and start the inaugural mock trial team junior year. And it was something that I'd never done before, but I really, really enjoyed. And it was really special to have a teacher who was so dedicated to, I mean, mock trial it requires so much commitment, and he was willing to put in so much time and effort into doing it that it really inspired me to put that same amount into it, and then other students as well. So junior year, we were, just starting out, and we went to the regional competitions and didn't make it very far. And then this year, we had a huge turnout, and I was co-captain of the team, and we ended up going to the semifinals of regional. And this is a photo of us after we beat one of the top teams in the state, which was a huge deal. So really at Drew, I feel like I've found this new connection and interest in law. I've taken an intro to law class now with the same teacher, and have really connected with public defense and criminal justice reform. And this year I was lucky enough to sign up for a deal about that in Philadelphia, which has one of the highest rates of incarcerated Black individuals in the country, and recently went through a huge shift in the way that they deal with criminal justice reform. And I'm going on that leaving this Sunday, and I'm so excited. And it's just like a new door opened that I never even realized that I could have access to. And so for my senior project, I chose to do an internship at Soberner Ravenscroft, which is a tenants' rights law firm, which is slightly different from public defense, but still sort of the general area that I'm interested in, and feels extremely pertinent living in San Francisco. And in this internship, haven't started it yet, but I'm sort of done preliminary meetings, and I'm really excited to be able to connect with members of the community. As part of the internship is sort of taking calls and assessing whether or not the firm can take this case, and going through sort of what the next steps would be. So I'm excited to be able to have open communication with people who might be bringing cases, as well as building relationships with people who work in the law firm, which is the people who take assessment calls, but also paralegals and lawyers, and people who also draft potential legislation to protect tenants that they then send and try and get passed. And yeah, I'm planning on doing pre-law in college, and honestly, I don't think that I would have ever gone down this path if I hadn't come to Drew. So I'm just extremely grateful for Drew teachers especially, but also that I've been given the opportunity to pursue this interest so wholeheartedly.
All right, I mean,
Yeah.
and we're done. Actually, mic drop. So incredible, again, to showcase student voice and to see the trajectory of learning and agency and sort of self-knowledge that these incredible seniors represent. And that is our mission in action, really. That is the best testament to learning outcome that I can think of. And now, segueing also to leadership and community engagement, and a really exciting kind of resurgence of involvement from the parent community post-COVID, right? We're fully back. And I'm really excited to welcome Charlie Theriault to tell you a little bit about what they're working on. There you go.
Hey everybody, I think I only have one slide, so you can jump to it. And I have notes everywhere, so you have to bear with me. You may not know this, but I was a teenager once, and in high school, and it was confusing and difficult. And I just, honestly, I wish I had had a community like this to allow me to have so much of myself still at that age, because I think in a lot of places we have to armor up, and I've worked very hard to get rid of some of that armor, but you can see these brilliant young people here are really, really have a lot of themselves intact, and it's pretty wonderful. Let's see. So My name's Charlie Terry, and I have a junior son. I am a co-chair of the PGA. I came into this organization in 2023, and I shared I was co-chair with a woman named Judy Lewinthal Daniel, who has a senior child, and who, I mean, I feel like Forrest Gump. I just like showed up and got to support this incredible person doing like rebuilding the PGA from the ashes of the pandemic. And then now there's who joined me, and Netta Bukowski joined me, and she's like taking it and doing all these amazing things. So I just get to kind of support these incredible people, and it's been really, really fun. And the PGA itself has been busy and growing. And so we have twice the number of volunteers that we had last year, and we have a budget that, since the budget last year was zero, is infinitely larger. And so that's fun and exciting. Let's see, parent ed has been on fire. I think, this very creative idea of bringing in the teachers, it's called Educators Unplugged, which is a lot of fun. And the first one was Ali Bloom, who did a studio program that I was so bummed to miss, but that sounded amazing. And one of the next ones is Ray McMillan, who's going to be teaching fencing. He's the newest math teacher, so that sounds fun. I hope I can make that. We've done twice as many, or we will have done twice as many service days and socials, and I highly encourage you all to go to the socials. And obviously go to the service days as well. But it's, parenting, being a teen is hard. Parenting a teen is hard. I had some tears the other day just thinking about my, son who was like in my arms, it feels like yesterday, and is now, a man, and just an incredible young man, and it's wonderful. But it's a confusing time for them. Can be confusing time for us. And so I really think that parents supporting other parents, like sharing stories, just whatever, kvetching about the things that we're all wrestling with, can really help us to be calm and enjoy this moment, and then be calm and for our kids and allow them to enjoy this moment. So I think it's important for us to take care of each other that way, and then we can take care of them better. We are always looking for volunteers. We have, a parent ed committee that is doing lots of exciting stuff, but honestly, the more people that come, the more we can do, and the more we can bond as a community and learn. But there's also Drew Good, which is the sort of service-focused group. There's Drew Rewards, which helps. We have a lot of goals for that. Things that can be fun, bringing in more of the community, I'd love to bring in some more people in our volunteer connector roles, because we have like more volunteers that we can really organize and put into roles. So all these roles are exciting and fun. And let's see. Oh yeah, very excited about Dragon Spirit Circus at night. I can't spoil some things, but there's gonna be some fun things. It's gonna be different. I have an 8-year-old, so I've been going through a lot of these events, and this sounds like a remix, that a fresh way to celebrate. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna not a lot of sitting and staring at one stage. It's gonna be a lot of dynamic stuff. So highly recommend that too. And I think that folds into this building community piece too, just going to these events. So yeah, there's a sliding ticket scale, which I think is a very cool way to look at this and approach it. Yeah, it's gonna be really fun. I hope I see you there. We can talk more about this kind of stuff. So thanks very much.
And in the circus, after dark, coincidentally, one of our deal programs is a circus arts deal. And so our students next week will be learning the trapeze and juggling and all of that. We hope to invite them just to the stage. We'll see. All right, I want to change format a little bit here and invite Maija to join me, Maija and Saya. And that's why I got the job. And we're going to actually just engage in conversation, and Selena Shadle, who is our Director of Advancement, is going to help moderate this part of the program, and we'll try to target enough time to take audience questions as well. How does that sound? Okay, let's do it.
Thank you.
And
Welcome
we
to
have chairs. Or we sit
Yes.
down.
Welcome to the Saya and Maija show. I'm very excited to be your moderator for the night. So you may have heard that over the past year, we've been spending a lot of time working on our accreditation process. And we just recently received a draft report from our visiting committee who was here, gosh, a month ago now, a few weeks ago. Yeah, it feels like a month. And it was really inspiring. So we just wanted to talk a little bit about that with you. Saya, do you want to do a quick overview of
Sure.
accreditation?
Yeah, so just for those of you who are probably already aware of this, but the accreditation self-study process is something that all schools go through in a cycle of 7 years. And what it is an invitation for schools to look inward and think about, like, how are we doing? What are we doing well? Where do we need to improve? And the most productive and probably successful accreditation processes involve the whole community. And I'm really pleased to say that that was certainly the case here at Drew. We started last year in thinking about the framing of these different areas of study, from mission and institutional purpose through their educational program to operations and facilities. And we invited and surveyed basically all constituent members of the community as well. So some of you may remember a climate survey that you took in the spring. It was a lot of data collection and then a series of working groups. But what I think is interesting is I just want to point out that the last time that we went through this was in 2015, 2016, when David Frankenberg was first hired. So it's kind of a funny thing, like all things new, old, or new again, where we find ourselves in kind of a situation. He was in his first year of headship when he went through the accreditation, and the same goes for me. And 7 years ago plus, we were really introducing a new mission. We had introduced a new brand. And we had worked through the development of the learning outcomes, and much of the work that has gone in to the last 7 years have been about really delivering and really making sure that our educational experience, our programs are delivering upon the mission and the desired outcomes. Some people call those the portrait of a graduate, right? But what do we want students to be able to know, do, transfer by the time that they leave Drew? And those learning outcomes led us to do a full curricular review, and it really involved professional development, and has been a sustained and very deep process of thinking about how this really touches every element of our educational program. We started a strategic planning process that was interrupted by the pandemic, and then has sort of picked up again, and has led us to really think about not so much an outward-facing strategic plan, but very clear educational and strategic priorities about a consistent and aligned educational experience, about aligning systems of resources and support in service to that, about telling our story and sustaining and building engagement from the larger community. So those are things that have been sort of on our radar for the last 7 years. And in this process, the self-study is what we report about ourselves. And then we have a visiting team of 5 educators from different peer schools representing different elements of their school operations, advancement, teaching and learning, et cetera. And they come in and they basically fact check us, right? Like, how accurate are we in sort of assessing ourselves, and more importantly, bringing fresh perspective to our own evaluation, where they can say, oh yeah, that seems important, but actually maybe you're overthinking that, this is more important. So they help to sort of codify and elevate and prioritize for us things that hopefully we have identified for ourselves, but also are better for an outside perspective.
Great. Thank you, Saya. Part of that process is really lifting up commendations from our self-study and potentially their own, as well as recommendations. Do you want to review some of the commendations that came out of that?
I will, and I will say that the first commendation that they gave to us was for the process itself, that they thought that it actually did, that what we said was reflected in what they saw here, and that they really felt like there was a broad range of voice that was involved in this self-study process, and they also highlighted something that is somewhat intangible, which is when you step on campus, you actually feel something. You feel something about our mission in action, and they talked about that as like a very tangible, warm and welcoming and mission-aligned culture. And so they were able to sort of see and observe that. They also talked about it as a culture of growth and support. And so when I go through the commendations, I mean, there's lots that we are all proud of. But in that was also an acknowledgement that we foster a culture of growth and continuous improvement. And so that's something that I want to say is like all of these things are awesome and we are not resting on our laurels. Like part of our culture here is always, in Japanese we call it kaizen, like continuous improvement, right? And so I put some data down just to sort of help dimensionalize this, but yeah, the school culture was above and beyond something that they really recognized. And they said that, you know, it was clear that that the students were engaged, that it was a supportive and warm, welcoming school. And I wanted to just share some data from some student surveys that actually add dimension to this. So we did a NAIS survey and it's benchmarked against other high schools across the country. And we sort of surpassed the mark in peer schools around high engagement, in particular in academic and intellectual engagement, in school participation, in emotional engagement, in low instances of bullying, and a strong sense of belonging and being seen, which I think some of the students like helped to affirm. And these are some of the statements that like led to these conclusions. My opinions are respected. I feel supported by adults. I care about this school. I feel comfortable being myself, and I feel like I'm an important part of the community. So those are like really big wins for us because that's what we want our students to experience, and that's where we are also winning, right, in this equation. So that feels really great, and there's so much research out there right now to talk about how important this is, this idea of culture as the delivery vehicle for learning and countering some of the trends around the toxic competitive culture that really just reduces and impedes learning and certainly impedes self-confidence. So for students, you may have seen like the NPR and the New York Times articles on autonomy and agency and how those are so important to engagement. You probably have seen the Gallup study, which is a long-term longitudinal study saying that it's not just about where you go to school, but what you do there that really matters over time. Or even the Stanford School of Education challenge success data that really is talking about how do we counter this trend of transactional learning and students just doing school. And so that is a huge commendation for us. And then a lot of the actual mission in action in the classroom, we talked a little bit about this earlier, was commendable. And in particular, some of the things that they really appreciated was the interdisciplinary strands that we've introduced in the last few years in our Climate Academy and our Voice in Action. A lot of the visiting team was like taking copious notes to bring back to their own schools, which I thought was a good sign. And then you know, health, safety, and wellness, I think, is another piece that is reflected in some of the data that I shared. We just went through a more extensive survey through, you know, to try to assess like student wellness at a much broader level, and I really look forward to sharing the results of that survey. I think that's something that we're going to start to benchmark and really track, but But yeah, students and the campus, I think, was seen as safe. And so that was a great thing. And yeah, and then I think the increased community engagement, you've seen some examples of that in the PGA and the sort of contributions the extended community made. I'm going to pause there. I feel like we've talked a lot about that. A lot more to say about that.
There were a lot of conversations. Obviously, part of the self-study is for us to look at our school and for areas of growth and where we can do better. And there were a lot of those listed in there because we're reflective and we believe in doing better. So the visiting committee then takes some of those and makes recommendations off of those for those that they feel should be elevated. Maija, do you want to go over some of those?
Thank you, and thank you everyone for being here tonight, online or in the room. So I will say from a board perspective, we were not surprised by any of these recommendations, and these were all things that we had already come out with in the self-study or had previously known as a board of trustees. So I think from that viewpoint, just knowing where we have to focus and prioritize over the next year and as we look at the strategic plan, this is super helpful. So I'll start with kind of just giving a high level overview of a couple of them and then talk about where as a board we will prioritize. So the aligning the operations and resources to the mission, that's looking at things like how our facilities accommodate our programs, how our staffing accommodates our programs. I mean, one of the things my son, who is now an alum as of last June, he loved the gym in the parking garage basement. But maybe that's not the best place for a gym. But for him, it was awesome. It worked. It was easy. He could pop down there. So just things to think about as we look at our strategic plan and what we prioritize. Financial sustainability and growth. For some, this is a big priority and push for the board. For those of you that are new, you may not be as familiar with this. Others of you may be aware that in terms of peer schools in San Francisco, we have one of the smallest endowments. And so a big focus over the past couple of years has been building our endowment. And so that will be continued work at the board as we look to the future. And then a second piece of that is this long-term financial planning and building out a financial plan. And Lynn, who's in the room tonight, our CFO, is working on a pilot program with NBOA, I never say it right, that's the National Board Business Office Association of Independent Schools. They just call it NBOA. And so she's working on a pilot project with them to build out this planning tool so that we will have something to kind of look and plan for the future. Communicating our value proposition and brand. This is something that the board has been working on already. I guess it was last spring as SIA was about to come on, the board highlighted the need for kind of a branding and marketing kind of look at the landscape and look at what we needed to do as a school. And so we allocated funds, and Selena and SIA and the rest of the team here, along with many members of the community, kicked off a marketing task force. And that group has been very, very active, and it's been an exciting project and more to come there. What we want to do is take the hidden out of hidden gem, because we talk about Drew being a hidden gem, but really we are a gem. So that work is ongoing and more to come there. And then exciting is the work coming out of the accreditation is the strategic planning and that process. Lisa Busby, who sits on the board with a couple of us in this room, will be chairing that process. And so more to come there. In fact, I'll turn it over to Saya to talk more about the strategic plan. That's your baby.
Do you have a question about
that?
Sorry. You're taking my job. Can you tell us a little more?
Yes, Selena, I'd be happy to do that.
Thank you so much.
Well, the accreditation findings and sort of recommendations, I want to just transition to saying those are things that we're accountable for addressing. That we actually are going to set priorities and plans to try to dig into some of the things that we and they have elevated as priorities. And so that will be something that we start right away. Parallel to that and not unrelated to that is a process of strategic planning that will sort of take those recommendations and really project out in a much more futuristic way. We're not talking about 1 to 3 years forward, we're talking about like 7 to 10 years. Like, where do we want to be as a school? And what are the things that we need to do and identify to help chart that course? So the strategic planning process, again, is going to be in alignment with our work to tackle some of these other, challenges and opportunities that we've identified, but look at it again from a much more future-forward stance. And it will, again, involve the community. So there's lots of opportunity for voice to be registered. It's really important, both for the culture of our school, but also for the future of our school, that we are collecting and taking into account these multiple perspectives. So basically, we're going to kick that off this spring, just so everybody take a deep breath. We finished the accreditation, breathe, yay, good job. And now we'll actually set foot into this new process of strategic planning. So we are this spring thinking about the framework and structure for that. So those first 2 steps are really about planning and doing a little bit of like scoping of the work. And then come fall, we are going to start working in inquiry groups around different pillars of investigation, where, what would we like to know, and how might this be informed by what we think would be, relevant 7 to 10 years from now. 7 to 10 years prior, we didn't think that Waymos would be all over San Francisco, right? So we might have planned, for example, a major transportation project that now we might rethink, because we're not really sure exactly how transportation will play out. So we're going to be thinking in that kind of like both futuristic and also like practical way about all of the elements of who we want to be and what we want to provide to students in the future. And that will include going out and doing research. Some market research, some other site-based research. What are other people doing in this area that we could learn from? And then in the early second half of the school year, we'll be holding a big community event where the inquiry groups will be showcasing some of their research findings for a little bit of further ideation. And so we plan kind of a big community day of design thinking, and we move to convergence, and we hope to then be able to like come up with a much more distilled and succinct plan by the spring of next year. And it will be published, and it will be something that we track our progress against. And it should incorporate, but probably also extend beyond the recommendations that we have set through the accreditation.
And Maija, what do you envision are some of those pillars of focus for the plan?
Well, I think for example, not just so much as some of the categories of the accreditation. So in the area, for example, teaching and learning, there might be something that would be really oriented toward technology, right? And how will technology and innovation influence the way that we teach and learn? And some of that is stuff that we're already digging into. Dax and Kim are on our AI task force, and et cetera. But we'll be looking at innovation and technology. We will be looking at facilities and site-specific questions, and we'll be looking at forecasting and modeling, and thinking about like all of those kinds of bigger questions. So wellness, student wellness, and I'm really curious. I don't want to name too many things, because really the purpose of the futurist thinking is to open up the box and to try to invite in ideas that may not be coming to mind for me in the moment.
Great, thank you. Any last words before we turn to questions and answers? Oh, sorry, Maija, do you want to know? Any last comments before we move to questions? Okay. Great, so we have time for questions and answers from the group here. If you're online, there is a way for you to track questions there as well. Anyone in the audience? Yes.
I'm so impressed. Oh, I think I'm on. So my name is Maija. Me and my husband have a freshman here, and yeah, just this presentation is just like a little stamp, a postage stamp of amazing that is mailed to out to the world, and so I just feel so grateful to this moment. I had a question about the strategic planning process because you two are very busy humans, and just recognizing that I'm sure there's like committee work happening behind the scenes, but in terms of the whole community engagement, what are ways and strategies that you're utilizing to ensure that it's not kind of too much being held, not a bottleneck situation, but just like how it's being farmed out, for lack of a better image. Like how it's not being just all up on Saya or all up on or your show.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, it's really important. Yeah, I think we have to be like very intentional about like the accordion nature of this. So like when do we expand out, and then like when do we contract? And like much of the work that happens in institutions will rely heavily on the working groups to advance the work. But then it's important to take and socialize those at key moments so that it isn't, and like I said, it's important that it be like a shared initiative with, multiple point people leading the different teams so that it won't be just incumbent upon one or two people, because it's a much better process and it's certainly more efficient that way too.
And I'll just say a little insider baseball. Saya and I meet weekly, and one of the things that we talked about as part of the strategic plan is how we will do the work. Do we bring in a consultant who does the entire project for us, start to finish? Do we use a consultant part of the time and then design some of the working groups ourselves? And so we went with a half-half model. So we have somebody coming in to help with some of it, but then we will run the other half of it. So that seemed like the best fit for our school as well. And then also the board, as part of surprise board members in the room. As part of our retreat in August, we will spend a big chunk of time during that session on the strategic plan. That will be our working group. So, yeah.
Great, thank you. So we do have one question online. I love the shout out for the student-led, the 415. Is it true that the origin of 415 is that it was a senior project by a group with the class of 2022 students? Pretty cool. So kind of a question behind the statement.
Okay, well, this is a good history fact-checking lesson for me. So I believe that what happened was that we had our former dean of students worked with the leadership team to develop the concept. And so it was certainly probably led by a group of seniors, but I'm not totally sure that it was a part of a senior project per se. I think that it was actually like part of a leadership initiative that was designed to really build confidence in a creative way. And again, to redefine what leadership looks like at Drew, because sometimes we think of leadership as kind of like a triangle with a couple people leading the charge and everybody else falling into line. And leadership here at Drew is much more distributed, and leadership means like building pathways for everybody to play a role. And I think an event like the 415 is sort of emblematic of the way that students do that, and the way that they have to be responsible for things that can go wrong and learn from that, because it does feel like high stakes, right? If your food truck doesn't show up or your permit isn't like granted or something,
but these are the ways that students can, within a very safe and manageable framework, learn those valuable lessons and then take and reflect upon them and build again. So, and it also is, just a way that leadership at Drew and engagement has been about doing things for the community. And so it could have been just like a big dance for students or something like that, but instead it's extended, I think, again, culturally, to include the full community, families, prospective families, et cetera. And so, so yes to the seniors and yes to the student leadership in shaping it, but no to, I think, the specifics of the senior project. Yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions in the audience here? Right, I have one more question here. Are there going to be more interdisciplinary classes like Voice in Action or Climate Academy?
Pressure. We hope so. Yeah, I think that these two classes, surprise, are only 2 years old, right? And so it's really incredible the way that they've taken root and have resonated with students, and have served as also a really kind of like that flagship model of the way that we want students to learn and make connections. So we have a 9th grade, we have a 10th grade, and we're hoping to develop an 11th grade track as well that probably will have more of a STEM focus. And exactly the way that will manifest is in development. And I guess what I'm saying is that they're not just supposed to be singular experiences. There are ways that if you become really interested in climate activism or climate change, that you could actually, through other curricular experiences, whether they be EE steals or actually electives like core classes, you can continue to extend those. So we want to make sure that there's some coherence to it, but the design concept, absolutely, and we'd love eventually for it to touch every department.
I would love for you to talk about One Ocean, the project. Well, no, I can give you that. So I bumped into Mary Kerr, who's one of the Climate Academy teachers at the 415, and she was filling me in on this great opportunity that, so I'll let you talk about it.
Great, well, fact check me too, because you just talked to Mary about it, but we're really excited because Mary Kerr and Talia Praline have been leading the Climate Academy, and one of the students in our community, her parents, I'm going to get this wrong, but basically they work for the Norwegian embassy or their consulate, yeah, and brought to our attention this really cool project that is run out of Norway, and it's like a ship, a historic ship that is sailing in a route to raise awareness around climate action and the impact on oceans. And they are stopping around the world at different ports and, generating more awareness around through this voyage, basically. And but bottom line is I'm talking around a circle, but they're writing the curriculum for this. They're writing the curriculum, and it's part of the UN sustainability project. And if you go to One Ocean, you'll see Drew School curriculum there. And our students are actually going to be able to visit when they're in port here. And we're actually trying to foster some connections to student groups and schools at the other points and ports around the world. And it's just a really lovely way of showing the talent, I think, and also the reach and the kind of organic nature of the way that these projects take shape and then really soar.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, we have one question. Sai, being in your first year, what has been most exciting? And then it's two-pronged. What are you most looking forward to next?
Wow.
Not to be on the spot too much.
Yeah. No, it's a humbling question because it's been a very full year. And
So there's so many things that I could talk about that have been exciting. I have to say I'm really proud of the professional community here. I'm really, really proud of the way that we live our mission, and I love working with everybody here. I really love that. So getting to know the extended community, which was one of my goals for this year, has been also really great. And I have to say the thing that I've loved most this year is that it's a very steep learning curve, and I really love learning. And so that feels really good. It feels like our mission, right, where you want it to be just enough pressure and you know, to kind of motivate and not overwhelm. And within such a supportive and connected community, it feels just right. And so from like my position, hopefully to the students and the incoming students, that feels like a very, I think, common experience. And so I've really been so really just privileged to be able to step into this role. What was the second question?
What you're most looking forward to
Oh,
next.
looking forward to, yeah. Well, I'm really excited to hear how the students, I mean, this is very tactical, how the students experience Deal. Really just seeing the trajectory of the year close, I think, will be great to sort of look back and say, look at all that happened, it's incredible. And I'm really looking forward to strategic planning. I knew she was going to say that. I'm really looking forward to that because that just feels like really exciting work. Yeah, but I mostly just feel overwhelmed and grateful for the community and for the support and for the trustees that I get to work with. That has been a new community for me. You can see why I love working with Maija, and we have other trustees here in the house. And so I think people and culture, no surprise, it sort of aligns with our, yeah.
We picked the right person for the job.
So we have one last question. I think it's probably too early to answer this, but it pertains to admissions. It says, have we seen an increase in interest in the school this year and changes in the upcoming year's enrollment? And it's a reminder, the deadline's Friday, so.
Yeah. So admissions is plugging along. We're in that sort of liminal space right now where we've sent out offers and we're really excited. And I think, you know, along with some of the data that I shared with you, what we're seeing is that we are attracting also mission-aligned families, people who know and care about, you know, the experience that we offer. And so, really, you know, that feels really good when we think about students who will thrive here at Drew. And we see more and more of them really feeling in alignment with our application process. Let's everybody shout from the rooftops that this is a great place to learn, so that people sign their contracts this Friday, and that we have a wonderful incoming class.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay. We're good online. All right. Want to close us out? I think we're good.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for this time and for your interest, and of course, for showing up and participating and being part of this incredible community. Like that participation rate, I think, makes all the difference. And if there are questions that come to you that either you didn't feel comfortable sharing in this moment, or come to you later that you wish that you had asked, you know where to find us, and we're always available to ask those questions. And we'll just keep communicating because there's lots to share, and we're really, really excited to do that. So thank you.